The Rangers have one of, if not the best offenses in all of baseball. In this weekend series, they take 2 out of 3, do exactly what they need to against the Angels, plus another fantastic start from Nathan Eovaldi. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Shout out to the everydayers, making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers today on Monday, May 8th, are 20-13, 2 games clear atop the AL West after winning 2 out of 3 in Anaheim. What could have and probably should have been a sweep. The Rangers got their 20th win, for context, May 26th last year, so basically 3 weeks ahead of schedule. But this offense was just absolutely fantastic, really put on display in the final 2 games of this series. The Rangers bullpen blew a pretty upsetting game on Friday night. A good start from Dane Dunning. We'll get into that later on in the show and the problems with this bullpen, but I want to start off with the good. And the good is this freaking offense, putting up 16 runs in the finale and 10 runs in the next to last game of this series. Just an absolutely dominant showing, and the depth of this lineup is just absolutely incredible. So far, through the first 33 games, the Rangers have scored 10 or more runs 9 times. They're one of 3 teams in Major League Baseball history to do that, joining, of course, everyone remembers the 1930 Brooklyn Robins and the 1997 Colorado Rockies. This team has a plus 85 run differential. Plus 85, just absolutely insane. And, it's not just the big boppers at the top of the lineup. Nathaniel Lowe hasn't even really gotten going yet. And this offense is just absolutely crazy. I mean, the Rangers have 8 regulars with an OPS plus above 115, where it's basically just averaging the average OPS around the league. 100 is average. The Rangers have 8 players that are playing regularly right now that are 15% or more better than league average. And then that's not even counting Corey Seager and Mitch Garver. When those guys get back, the Rangers have 10 bats that are at least 15% better than league average. You want to look around at the rest of the offenses in Major League Baseball, the ones that we thought were going to be fantastic. The Rays have 10 with an OPS plus of 115 or better. That's fine. Dodgers have 7. That's fewer than the Rangers, even without their 2 stars that are hurt. The Braves have 6. The Orioles have 6. The Blue Jays have 5. The Pirates have 5. The Red Sox have just 4. And the Astros have just 2. I know Jose Altuve is hurt, but come on, the rest of their lineup would have plenty more. I thought they'd have at least, 5 or 6, because, they have Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker right now, but they also signed Jose Abreu, and they also have Alex Bregman, and those guys aren't doing well. And yeah, it's just been a little bit of a rough go for the Astros, who lost 2 out of 3 to the Rangers' upcoming opponent, Seattle. In Seattle, both of those teams are at 500, tied for 3rd place in the American League West. Who's in second? Well, it's the Angels, who the Rangers just whooped up on. I mean, Leody Tavares, I want to thank him very much, especially in this final game of the series, for making me look incredibly smart. On Friday's show, I talked about Evan Carter, how well he's doing, and why there's no need to rush him, because ultimately it's going to come down to him playing center field. Leody Tavares is his competition. I think long term, eventually, I thought heading into the season, Leody Tavares, if he performed well this year, he would lock down that everyday center field job, because his defense and his ceiling defensively in center field is a little bit higher than Evan Carter, and Carter would play one of the corners, either left field or right field. Didn't really matter to me, but there was no really need to rush him, because Leody was doing fine, and Leody did fantastic this weekend, just absolutely fantastic, especially in the finale. A 4-hit game, the first of his career, 4 RBI for him as well, added his 6th double of the season, and a lot of hard contact for Leody. He has continued to hit the absolute tarnation out of baseballs. I know he only has 1 home run, doesn't have a whole bunch of extra base hits, but he is stinging the baseball. The thing we knew about him we know his defense, and we know that when he makes contact, it's pretty hard, especially when he gets a hold of one. His max exit velocity is in the top 84th percentile of all of baseball. His hard hit rate is in the top, near the top quarter, just 1% below the top quarter. Average exit velo is in the top half of baseball. Expected batting average, all those are up. Walk rate right around league average, with elite speed that he is taking advantage of as well. On the year, he has an 829 OPS. He's hitting 300, on base in the 370s, slugging over 450. This is exactly what you wanted from Leody Tavares, and this is the guy who's hitting 8th or 9th in your lineup most days. That's just absolutely crazy. Ezequiel Duran also continuing his crazy run. He has just been crushing it as of late, and it seems like we're going to have some more Leody in left field, some more everyday Leody. He's been killing it at shortstop in the absence of Corey Seager. And in his last 15 games, he's just been on fire, hitting over 380 on base in the 420s, slugging over 650 with 4 home runs in 55 at-bats in those last 15 games. There is no way the Rangers can take him out of their everyday lineup. He has just been so freaking good and so freaking consistent. Eventually, he's going to have some struggles, and even if he is playing every single day, I mean, he's only got, I believe, still the 1 walk so far this season. He might have 2. Where'd we go? Yep, 2 walks. Nope, there we go. 1 walk to 22 strikeouts. That is not ideal, even though he does have an OPS over 850 at this point. I think that is going to have to change. He is going to walk a little bit more eventually. But right now he is not, because he is just contacting everything. He is barreling the crap out of everything, and when he gets a hold of one, it is absolutely majestic. I think he's going to have to be the everyday left fielder. His defense is, I think, will be fine in left field. Also, you put him in the outfield. You put him in left field, and the Rangers' everyday outfield of Leody in center, Adolis in right, and Ezequiel Duran in left. That is 3 of the strongest arms in all of baseball, all in the Rangers' outfield. You got a guy who is just absolutely has one of the stronger arms in baseball as your left fielder, the guy where you usually put with a less good arm in left field. That is just absolutely insane. Where we go. Where's his arm rate? Oh, his arm is not on here. They do not have his average throw velocity because he's not playing much in left field at this point. His arm strength has not shown up on the StatCast leaderboards just yet. But still, he has been so freaking good. And there's one stat that Jared Sandler was tweeting out that really kind of showed how deep this lineup is. Where we go. He said the Rangers are the only team in MLB when you break the lineup into thirds, ranking the top 5 of on-base percentage for each third. And the top third, which is basically one of either Robbie Grossman or Travis Jankowski hitting the 2-hole, Marcus Semien, and Nathaniel Lowe. The top third has a 365 on base, which is 5th in Major League Baseball. The middle third, which is Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung, and Jonah Heim, which I think might be the best middle third in all of baseball at this point. They have a 340 on base, which is 5th. And in the bottom third, which is some combination of Ezequiel Duran, Leonys Tavares, and either Josh Smith or Travis Jankowski or Robbie Grossman, depending on who's doing what. The bottom third has a 329 on base, which is 4th in all of baseball. It is not just the top, it is the bottom of this lineup, it is the middle of this lineup, it is literally everybody who is being plugged into this lineup, including Josh Smith, who came in for the injured Travis Jankowski. He left the game with, I believe, there we go, it was a hamstring injury. We'll see how serious that is, a little bit of a concern, but Josh Smith comes in and blasts his 2nd home run of the season. A 2-run shot, also worked a walk in this one, doing some really, really good stuff when he is coming up as of late. If he can get his bat hot, I mean, it's just, there's no place for him to play right now, and there will be even less of a place for him to play once Corey Seager comes back and Ezequiel Duran is playing every day in left field. I mean, this offense is just, it's better than I expected, and I expected it to be pretty good. When your DH opening day was Brad Miller, I thought, okay, well, this is not ideal. He's hitting 8th in this lineup, and he's your DH. That's not exactly what's going to happen. Well, I think when this lineup is fully formed, the DH might be hitting 8. And coming up, I'm going to look at what this fully formed, fully healthy lineup could look like and how just terrifyingly good it could be. But first, this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it is all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So, the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right. The first time around, just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Now, the depth of this Rangers offense is truly incredible. I don't know if Ezequiel Duran's going to have an 840 OPS for the entire season, or if Leody is going to keep up his 800-plus OPS for the entire season. But when it's healthy, this is what I'd imagine the ideal Rangers lineup looks like. You have Marcus Semien hitting leadoff, Corey Seager back in the 2-hole, then Nathaniel Lowe hitting third, Garcia batting cleanup, Josh Jung hitting fifth, Jonah Heim hitting sixth, Ezequiel Duran, or maybe Mitch Garver hitting seventh, one of those two in one of those places. The other one will go in the other place, and Leody Taveras in the 8-hole. You look at that lineup, and the lowest OPS I see there is Nathaniel Lowe, the 3-hole hitter, whose OPS is 775. Everybody else has an OPS of at least 800. Next closest bottom is Josh Jung at 808. Like, it's just absolutely insane, the depth of this lineup. I don't know if it's going to continue. I think Josh Jung's OPS being over 800 is definitely something that's sustainable. Marcus Semien's being at 843, that's sustainable. Heim at 950, I don't know. If it's above 800, that is still incredibly good for your 6-hole hitter. Duran above 850, I don't know. Garver at 943 at this point. He's only played 6 games, and he had 2 home runs and quite a few walks. We've seen him sustain that for an entire season, so that's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Maybe a healthy DH Garver, or more often DHing Garver, can kind of, bump up a little higher in that lineup. But I mean, even the guys that you're plugging in, Travis Jankowski, who has a 790 OPS. I mean, it's just insane. And Robbie Grossman, who might lose his place in this lineup, who has been doing fairly well. I know his overall OPS is just 687, but he finally had his 13-game hitting streak snap in the game where the Rangers had scored 16 runs, which is just absolutely insane. But yeah, this lineup is incredibly deep, even if there are some more injuries, even if it does take a little while longer for Corey Seager to get back. By the way, we do have an update on that. Bruce Bochy, who said it was, I think last week was at 7 to 10 days. I think he meant until he was rehabbing, not until he was fully back. That makes a little bit more sense. So it seems that Corey Seager is going to start his rehab after this Seattle series. The Seattle series ends on Wednesday, so Thursday he will start his rehab. We'll see how long that takes. I have not heard an update on Mitch Garver or Travis Jankowski, who left this game, but I want to talk about another great performance. But I also want to give a shout out to the everyday listeners. Shout out to the Locked On Rangers everyday listeners. If you want to listen to tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about hopefully a great John Gray start and a 3-game winning streak. If you want to listen to the Rangers on the radio, the Rangers take on the Mariners at 8:38 Central Time tonight. John Gray versus Logan Gilbert should be a good matchup. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi on Saturday. A huge performance. I know it was a 10-1 win, but it was closer than that for almost the entire game. The Rangers did their specialty. I'm going to drop a crap ton of runs in one inning. In the 9th inning, they dropped 7 runs in that 9th inning of what was, at that point, heading into the 9th, a 3-0 game after 8 shutout innings from Nathan Eovaldi. Comes off a fantastic complete game shutout the game after, literally just like an hour after the Rangers put Jacob deGrom on the 15-day IL. Goes and throws 8 shutout innings. He has thrown 20 innings without allowing a run. I believe that is since the middle of April. The guy has just been so incredibly good right now. According to Baseball Reference, he is the Rangers' WAR leader for pitchers at 1.0 WAR, just ahead of Dane Dunning, who had a pretty solid start on Friday, his first start this season, coming in for the injured Jacob deGrom. He threw 5 innings there. But Nathan Eovaldi coming up huge. The Rangers had just blown that game. They needed a win. They could not afford another loss. They just couldn't. They needed to win this series, and they definitely couldn't afford to be swept on the road against the Angels, who were a really hot team heading into the series. They were 8-2 heading in their last 10 heading into this series, coming off a pretty dominant sweep of the Cardinals, who have been an absolute disaster this year. I know Rangers fans who still harbor some ill will towards St. Louis for that series that shall not be mentioned because I value your mental healths. But the Angels were a really good team heading into this. They're still second in the division, and Nathan Eovaldi comes in and says, nope, you're getting absolutely nothing. The Rangers had a lead in that Friday game. The bullpen really just straight up blew it. There's no way around it. It was another bad outing for the bullpen, but shout out to Nathan Eovaldi for coming up super clutch in that one, and shout out to this Rangers offense. The one thing they continue to do, they mash a lot of home runs. They get on base at a really good clip, but the thing that they do so well they had not done in years past is hitting with runners in scoring position. The Rangers went 8 for 12 on Saturday with runners in scoring position. 8 for 12, hitting .750 as a freaking team. They didn't do quite as well in the 16-8 game, which is kind of insane, mainly because they had the help of quite a few long balls. They didn't have as much of that in the Saturday game. I think they only had 2 extra base hits in that one. Yeah, just a double from Travis Jankowski and a double from Josh Jung. But in the Sunday game, when they dropped 16, the Rangers went 6 for 20 with runners in scoring position. But of course, they added the huge home run from Ezequiel Duran, home run from Josh Smith, and a no-doubter from Adolis Garcia, his 9th of the season, which leads the team. He continues to be fantastic. But I got to give a shout-out to Dane Dunning. The Rangers lost the Friday night game in the 10th inning, and they had all of their best arms ready. They had all of their high leverage guys ready. Dane Dunning goes 5 innings, just allows 3 base runners and no runs. Fantastic outing for him, his first start of the season. Brock Burke comes in, only allows the 1 hit in 2 innings of shutout work. Jonathan Hernandez comes in, allows a couple of hits and an earned run. He thought, okay, well, the Rangers do have a 4-0 lead at that point. Yeah, 4-0 lead heading into the bottom of the 8th. Hernandez gives up 1. Okay, it's a save situation. Here comes Will Smith. We can put him in there and he'll be fine. He's been clutch this season. And Will Smith has a bad outing. One of his worst of the season. Allows 4 hits, 4 runs. Only 3 of them were earned. And it was just not a great game. The last one that wasn't earned was, I believe it came from the wild pitch from Josh Sborz, who comes in 1 pitch, wild pitch, walk off in the 10th inning. Just a really, really frustrating game. And I know this bullpen has been incredibly frustrating to start the season, but I'll get into that a little bit more in the third segment. There's no way around this, that Friday night was an absolute abject disaster. The Rangers could have a 3-game lead in the AL West heading into a series against Seattle. They don't. Because of this, they could have swept this Angels team that was red hot heading into the series. They didn't, but they came back and they responded to adversity. That is all you can ask for a team. This team has had plenty of moments where they looked frustrating. They had that series sweep against Cincinnati. Then they followed that up with, a loss to Garrett Cole. They're on a 4-game losing streak, their longest of the season. They rattle off 3 straight wins, mostly in dominant fashion. Part of that was that complete game shutout by Eovaldi. Part of that was the absolute thumping that they delivered on Sunday. There's something about Sunday games that the Rangers are just delivering some thumpings in those. They had the blowout win in this game. They had the blowout win against the Yankees. They had the close game that ended up being a blowout in Houston. There's just something about Sunday games that I think the Rangers really like playing in those Sunday games. But this offense, this team coming back, battling through adversity, that is what good teams do. That is something that this Rangers team needed to learn. They don't need to learn too many hard lessons, because this is where they need to take advantage of their schedule. It's going to be really brutal in June. It's going to be absolutely just heartbreakingly hard in July with a couple of series against the Rays and the Astros that are going to be huge, and against the Dodgers and the Padres. Just the best in all of baseball is July. So the Rangers really, I mean, you don't always have to start off hot to win a division title, but when you're a team who hasn't been to the postseason since 2016, I know this is a group of mostly new players, but it is still a team that has not been to the postseason since 2016. They needed to take advantage of that hot start. They did that in April. They need to continue to build on that in May. Hopefully a little bit more in June. They can start to get a little bit healthier, get Corey Seager back, get Mitch Garver back, hopefully get Jacob deGrom back pretty soon, and continue to find their groove. This is such a good team, but I do want to talk about the struggles of the bullpen and a struggling performance for Martin Perez, his first poor performance of the season. But first, this word from our sponsors. Thank you all so much to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers take on the Mariners on Tuesday at 8:38 Central Time on that Wednesday show. Hopefully I'll be talking about the Rangers clinching a series win, maybe a little bit more of an update. We'll have some updates on Mitch Garver, and hopefully just more dominance in a longer winning streak for the Rangers. On that Tuesday game, Andrew Heaney versus George Kirby. You can catch every pitch on the hometown broadcast on Sirius XM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, this bullpen, I believe, has been good about 80% of the time. I know that sounds really optimistic to say at this point, but for the most part, they have been. I mean, Will Smith's ERA jumped from below 2 to 3.75 with one bad outing, but that's kind of how bullpens are. They're finicky. That is just how they work. Brock Burke still has an ERA below 2. Hernandez is in the 3s. Leclerc is in the 3s. He had an inning where he got to come in probably the least stressful situation he's been in a long time. Just literally get back on the mound, throw some strikes, did give up a pretty long bomb to Hunter Renfroe, but was able to just get on the mound and not have to worry about inherited runners, which I think is just going to be the way for Jose Leclerc. Bruce Bochy said that, yeah, he's not going to pitch in some high leverage situations for a while. I think that's good. Get him his confidence back. Get him throwing strikes. He needs that. And Josh Sborz coming in with a big outing on Sunday because the Rangers needed 2 innings from him, because it was a rough outing for Martin Perez. His first rough outing of the season. His ERA, I believe, was around 2.5 heading into this one. Now it's at 3.86. He wasn't even able to go 4 innings. It breaks a 30-plus stretch streak of 5 or more innings pitched by Martin Perez. It was going to happen. It was going to happen at some point. I don't think that this is him regressing to him going back to the old me and just getting lit up. This is a good Angels offense. This is a really good Angels offense. There are, 2 of the best hitters on the planet in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani that did some damage against him. Hunter Renfroe is a pretty good player. I mean, this lineup is for the Angels is pretty deep as well. Taylor Ward is a good player. Anthony Rendon is a very good player. Brandon Drury, Gio Urshela, Luis Rengifo. This is a deep lineup, and there is no shame in occasionally getting battered around, because it will happen to the best of them. But 7 earned runs, 8 hits, 3 walks for him in this one. Could not make it through 4. Josh Sborz comes in, gets 2 shutout innings of work. Very, very key for him. Cole Ragans gets back on the mound. He hadn't pitched in quite a while. Good to see him get a steadying outing. Not a whole lot of things that were asked of him. 2 in a third innings, did walk a pair, but struck out a pair as well. No runs for him. Jose Leclerc comes in, gets the final inning, and doesn't allow a single walk. I will honestly take him allowing a solo shot, a massive solo shot, over allowing a walk. Having a walkless outing is just huge for Leclerc, who got behind a few hitters, including Hunter Renfroe, who he gave up that big bomb to. But good to see him just getting back on the mound. The Rangers need him. I know it's frustrating to watch him, and he does have a pretty infuriating walk problem, but the Rangers need him. The Rangers don't have a whole lot of options. I heard a lot of people in my comments and on Twitter and just in general saying you just gotta send Leclerc down. You can't send Leclerc down. He's been in the big leagues too long. You either have to cut bait with him and say you're done, we're done with you forever, or you gotta kind of suffer through it, kind of help him work through it, and get yourself there, because he's got the good stuff. He's got all the things you want. He's got experience, but right now he is kind of battling against himself, which is also something that can be said for John Gray. He has been one of the least effective starters for the Rangers besides Andrew Heaney. He is basically their number 4 starter. I mean, he is I think they're a number 4 starter, which we thought going into the season. Martin Perez is having some struggles. It's good to see Nathan Eovaldi out there and shoving, and Dane Dunning, who might end up staying in this rotation if Andrew Heaney keeps having these blow-up starts. Heaney has an ERA over 5.5. John Gray has an ERA of 4.40. That is fine. It is serviceable. He's still going to go out there and battle, give you 5-6 innings of work. Hopefully he can start getting some more strikeouts. He only has 2 strikeouts, and I believe his last 4 outings, 2 strikeouts each, not 2 strikeouts total. But the strikeouts have not been there. He has been really battling himself. He says it's not an injury. It's just something that he is working through. I thought it might be an injury with that 109-mile-an-hour liner he took off his arm. He really hasn't been the same since then. Maybe it's something mechanically. He's not really sure what it is. He feels healthy. He looks healthy. The Rangers checked him out, and he was all good to go. Doesn't have any pain. It's just something that he is fighting through. I have every confidence in the world that John Gray will fight through it and figure it out. The Rangers really need him in this Monday game to start off the series against the Mariners in a good way. Let's look a little bit at the pitching matchups in this one. Like we said, John Gray versus Logan Gilbert. That should be theoretically edge to the Rangers, but we'll see. Andrew Heaney versus George Kirby on the Tuesday game. That is probably most definitely the edge to the Mariners in that starting matchup. And then on Wednesday, we have TBD versus Luis Castillo. I think that is probably going to be Dane Dunning, because it has been not quite long enough for Jacob deGrom to get off the IL, and I'm assuming that Dane Dunning is going to stay in the rotation. And we just saw 2 1/3 innings from Cole Reagan, so I don't think that he is going to come up and start there. Maybe we'll see the PCL pitcher of the month for April, Cody Bradford, come up and make a start. That's the only other thought that I could have for who's going to start on Wednesday versus Luis Castillo, who has been one of the better starters in the American League. The Rangers are going to need to take these first 2. They are going to need to take 2 out of 3 from this Mariners squad that is figuring it out. We knew they would. The offense is still questionable outside of basically Jared Kelenic, which is not something we thought we'd be saying heading into the season. This is a good Mariners team. The offense is a little bit lacking. The starting pitching is really freaking good. I mean, you go Logan Gilbert to George Kirby to Luis Castillo in a 3-game series against the team that is leading the AL West at home. This is going to be a series that the Mariners are really juiced up for. I mean, they just took 2 out of 3 against the Astros, who lost Leonys Garcia for the season due to Tommy John surgery. That is a really rough break for him, but a good break for the Rangers. Don't wish injury on anybody. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery, and then when he comes back, he pitches badly, because I don't want the Astros to do well. But I don't want anybody to be hurt either. Just have all their best players be bad. That is the hope, the ethical hope for hating against your rivals. But this is a crucial series for the Rangers. It is so good that they come in riding that high of a series win. The offense is looking freaking good, deep and stacked. Hopefully they can continue to absolutely mash against a very talented Mariners pitching staff. And if not, then the Rangers starters need to pick them up. John Gray, hopefully this is the bounce back outing that we have been hoping for. Hopefully it's another bounce back outing for Andrew Heaney. I think this could be for both these guys. Like I said, the offense for the Mariners is stumbling a bit at the moment. And, you can only face who's in front of you. And at this point, if the Rangers go on this road trip, and they win all 3 series against their AL West opponents. Now, if the only one they don't win, the only way that it's not, if they win 2 out of 3, if they win the series against the Angels like they did, they lose 2 out of 3 of the Mariners. You can live with that. But if they win 3 or 4 against the Oakland A's, that is a hugely successful road trip. Like I said, heading into this road trip, this is a big moment for the Rangers. This midweek series against the Mariners is huge. The Mariners have been struggling as of late, obviously not in their last series against the Astros, but they are not quite at full swing. Julio Rodriguez is not quite at full swing. The rest of their offense is not quite up to snuff, and the Rangers need to take advantage. Use those hot bats. Continue hitting the absolute tarnation out of baseballs. Put them further down. Give yourself a cushion while Corey Seager is still injured, while Jacob deGrom is still injured, while Mitch Garver is still injured. Give yourself some cushion for those hard months coming up in June and July, because if you don't, then that could be the difference between this team ending their playoff drought and them making the playoffs and maybe even winning the division. Who knows? The Astros are in a weird place. The Mariners are in a weird place. Like I said, you got to win when you play these teams. If you're hot and they're not, take advantage. The Rangers did that their series in Houston. Hopefully they can do that again with this big series in Seattle. We'll see how it turns out tonight. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube. For the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below and tune in to every single show. Make yourself an everydayer. I really appreciate every single one of you. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.